Welcome back to the second worst day of the week, Tuesday, where it's Tuesday on First Ring Daily.
My new facial cut is here. I can't seem to not cut myself in the morning.
You know, maybe you should talk to somebody else about that, with some more medical experience than me.
Shave. By this age, my face should be conditioned to this. It happens every day.
I mean, it's probably better your face than your wrists. Yeah. The good news, Paul, is our national nightmare is over again.
Which national nightmare are we referring to?
For all those times you were using Notepad, Paul, and you say, God, I wish I could file a bug in the feedback hub from within inside of Notepad. You can now do it. You can do it.
Yeah, So point of this comment is not to disparage a person, or whatever. I realize that, they're bound by whatever work requirements and stuff. But someone from the Insider team tweeted I love this feature. And it was a picture of Notepad with that menu down, and then it said submit feedback or whatever it says. And love it, really. Love it. I love my family. I love my friends. I love my country, kind of. There are some tech products that I approach a loving relationship with, I guess.
Yeah.
I love certain wines, certain scotches and whiskeys, certain sushi and other food. But loving, love, I don't know. Yeah, good for you guys. Finally figuring out feedback in part of your product that's been there for 35 years. Yeah, good for you.
I'm just curious as to why they're tinkering with Notepad. I mean, it's been fine for 2 decades.
Here's my theory. I believe they had previously said that Notepad and some other apps are going to be put into the store. And I have heard privately that Notepad and other apps are going to be made open source. Given this, or given at least one of those, you may not believe my source. It doesn't matter. I think that what that means is that the source code for these applications has been examined a little more closely than has been the case in many years. And since they're tinkering with it anyway, or perhaps to make it conform to some requirement of that open source /store thing, they have started adding little features that make it conform, and that might explain it.
Maybe.
I mean, I mean, I guess that, on the surface, this is such a stupid thing to spend time on, but this is kind of Microsoft and Windows in a nutshell when you think about it. You have this humongous application, or it's not an application, but an operating system, Windows, and it has so many different components and parts and pieces and things. And a lot of it is legacy code that dates back decades, literally decades. And with Windows 10, you want to kind of reverse the secrecy of the past, and you want to engage users, not just insiders, but actual users, and allow them to provide feedback about the product. And so you put in this thing called the Feedback Hub. It evolves over time into whatever it is, and it has its ups and downs or whatever. Yep. And I guess the point is, well, okay, but I'm using Notepad and I have a problem, or I want it to do something it doesn't do. I might not know that there is a Feedback Hub, And so you insert a link into a menu in that application that will go to a certain part of the Feedback Hub that's dedicated to Notepad. And no one, how could you complain about something like that? It's kind of logical and it kind of makes sense. And I guess the only problem is, like I said, there are millions of components of Windows. I mean, just looking at the applications, there are hundreds. So you have to make sure that you do that everywhere and you do it consistently everywhere. And Microsoft isn't good at doing things everywhere or doing things consistently. And no, I mean, they aren't. And that's the thing. I mean, so neato, as if Notepad was somehow in the top 10% of what everyone does on Windows, as if it matters really in the slightest. I mean, really. I mean, I use this thing every day, but I could use any text app every day. Who cares?
I got dark.
It's such a, yeah, I know I'm getting dark here too. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? It's kind of goofy. It's such a hard thing to maintain because you can't say look, we have a common app shell and we're going to insert this thing once and it's going to be everywhere and it's always going to go to the right thing, because so many different parts of Windows are different technologies and we're built different ways and using different tools at different times. And this becomes kind of a support nightmare. It is the problem of Windows. It's it is this big, hairy, complex thing. And now what we're going to find is we have that little feedback thing in a couple of places and not in a couple of other places where it might be useful. Because that's Microsoft.
You feel better?
Yeah. Hooray for Notepad. I don't know.
Feel better. Anyways, where I was going with this, completely unrelated. I'm just going to ignore everything Paul said. Is so they also did the task of it. It's kind of probably hard to see here, but they updated the Explorer icon. So, Paul, this is me.
Yep.
This is somebody who goes to the beach and gets tanned. You can see the evolution of before beach, after beach, and they added some dark color to it.
By the way, I will try not to go on an extended rant about this particular thing, but this too is another example of what I was just talking about. Actually, bring it back up if you don't mind, because it's kind of pertinent to the discussion. They've created this light theme, which replaces the light theme that we have today. That is way brighter than the current light theme. Mm-hmm. It's going to be unacceptable for a lot of people. I find it to be far too bright. Instead of making the light theme a little less bright, they've made one icon a little darker. so you can see it a little bit better on this too bright new theme, right? So here's the unsophisticated nature of Windows exposed for one and all. Instead of offering some sort of gradient setting where you can move from full brightness to full darkness, they have two hard-coded themes, one of which is too bright, one of which is too dark. And to make an icon, one icon, conform to one change they made in one of those themes, they have to change it. Like Windows is not sophisticated enough to handle that automatically. It's like the instances in a mobile app or a web page where you have white text on top of a whitish background. If you make something sophisticated, you can have that thing changed so that it automatically can always be seen. But that's not Windows. Windows is this giant legacy hairball, and they have to hand tweak one icon to make it look better. It's classic. All right, sorry. I don't know. I know.
I mean, between the cutting yourself, the ranting, you doing all right upstairs?
I'm cutting. Look, okay, but do you see the point? I mean,
I understand. We'll see what happens here with this, if this is some sort of bigger change or just them literally making it so it works on the white start bar or whatever it is, taskbar.
I just the light theme thing is very interesting to me because it is very nice looking. I've said that before. I mean, and I think anyone would agree. It's modern and it's nice, but it also comes at a time when we've discovered that blue light emitting from an LCD display is really damaging to your eyes. Mm-hmm. It isn't show that pitch. Just show your screen real quick. Look how blue. It's all blue. It's like literally shades of blue, bright light shades of blue. It's exactly the wrong thing for your eyes. And not only have we instituted a night mode in all of our digital devices to help in some small way protect us against this and kind of amp up the orange, or the orange, I guess we'll call it, which is calmer and better for your eyes. But we're starting to come around to the notion that that's how it should be all the time. And that the future of these interfaces that we deal with is going to be a lot like you see behind me, this kind of orangey cast, kind of fake skin color thing, because I'm obviously a creature that lives in a cave or whatever,
I don't dispute that.
And no, but it's kind of interesting. If you look at our two screens, I'm kind of orangey and my whole little vibe here is orangey. You even have a blue thing on your mic. It's
see the intent here is that all of it is out of my line of sight, so it's only hurting you.
Yes,
it's just a subtle little fu to Paul throughout every day,
and into my eyes. Yes, thank you. I go to the eye. I don't know what it is. My eyes have been killing me this year.
The one thing I've just figured out, and I don't know, I'm guessing it's a setting with XSplit, but look, you look like a normal shade of whatever white, but when I go to your full thing, it switches. Well, I think what it's doing is balancing. Yeah, it's
and halves of the display.
It's something.
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, what I just did is kind of interesting because there's a light over there. No, that's not really doing anything.
I don't know, but it clearly.
No, see, it actually gets bluer, and it's because your side of the.
No, I don't think it's. Well, it might be because today.
No, I think it is.
But I've noticed the past couple of days you're a little yellow. I'm sure people are really appreciating this, just bouncing back and forth. This is good.
Nausea-inducing episode of.
If you're watching this in VR, don't.
Yeah, we're really sorry. Yeah, sorry you bumped into something.
One other very random minor note, not that there was really any question about it, but I can exclusively confirm Rich Woods' report yesterday that there is an 850 in the headset.
Nice.
So,
yeah, I mean, I'll just reiterate that was the right choice.
Well, it's kind of the only choice. I guess the other choice is Intel.
Yeah, actually, okay.
Maybe
interestingly,
Paul, maybe they could shove another Pentium Gold Y, 4Y, whatever stupid processor in there. Well, I know you're a big fan of it.
Not the Pentium, for sure. I mean, all you have to do is look at benchmark tests and kind of see how they compare. The Pentium falls off the face of the planet. The Y series is in there. And especially for like single core tasks, there's really no difference between a Y series and a normal Core i5. So there's something going on there. Assuming you can make a system that is fanless and silent and has great battery life, right? And so right now, coincidentally to this, I'm testing the battery life of the HP Spectre Folio, which is based on the Y series. Same Y series processor family as the MacBook Air. It doesn't have a fan like the MacBook does. It's also not a 7-watt part. I think it's like a 5-watt part. But this is that thing. When you make a decision about anything, right? And we'll just talk about tech products here because that's what we are talking about. I want to buy a laptop or I want to buy a phone. It's not like an either or thing usually. It's not black and white. Like I just reviewed the OnePlus 6T. There's a lot of pros to this device, especially the cost, and then the incredible components inside. But it has some kind of weird trade-offs and compromises, I would say, that of the design that I think are curious. I don't know why they did things in certain ways, but for a laptop, you're going to look, it's a combination of things. Does it run the apps, which is a weird thing we have to ask today because in the past, what all Windows machines did, but you have to ask now, does it run all the apps? Does it run them quickly? Does it have great battery life? What's the display like? You go through a thing, and we all have whatever things go into this decision. But, if this HP thing delivers better performance than, say, an 850 based Windows 10 and ARM device, right? If it has a beautiful screen, which it does, great keyboard, which it does, beautiful form factor, which it does. What if, and I don't know what it's going to come out at, but what if it gets 12 to 15 hours of battery life? Like, what if? Right? Is that, and then you're kind of comparing it to this thing on the other side that gets 22 hours of battery life, but it doesn't run all the apps, right? And that's a goofy thing to run into because it's going to work normally for a lot of what you're doing. And then all of a sudden, one day you're going to go to install Photoshop Elements or something, and it's going to be like, nope.
Yep.
And that that's it's a problem for the ARM platform. So Intel might get there, but I think for the HoloLens anyway, to bring it full circle, I think it does make sense for that device because it only runs store apps, and you can take the things that are more efficient on the ARM side are what would benefit that platform more. There's no worry about desktop app incompatibility.
Right on cue. Tim is sending just massive amounts of messages across because why would be doing something different at this time?
Please respond with, yes, we still record a podcast every day.
Well, the thing was, too, is I even changed my Skype status to Do Not Disturb, and I still hear the stupid sound coming across because...
I guess all I would say to this is at least it wasn't happening at 8:30 at night. Just to throw out a random
time, yeah. That is very particular. I mean, 8:30 at 12/10/2018 p.m.
Yes, right.
Oh, this has been we've had a pretty good run of good podcasts lately, and I think this is one of the bottom. Whatever.
Really?
I don't know.
I think these discussions around the broader problems with Windows, right?
No, you're right. You were right.
Are important. Listen, I realize to many people I'm the angry old guy on the porch or whatever, but I really do feel I feel like if there's any value I can add to this community of sorts that we live within, it's just to kind of think about these things a little differently, because like to kind of go into full cheerleader mode over a menu in Notepad, an application that first appeared in Windows, if I'm not mistaken, in 1985. Okay. I'm glad it's there. But are you likewise promising to be consistent across all of Windows and make sure that thing's everywhere? That any application that's used as much as Notepad or more will also be updated with the same UI? And I'm guessing that the answer is no. It's a popularity contest. For some reason, Notepad has seized the hearts and minds of people. It's so exciting. Notepad,
Do you think you could say that same thing about Paint 3D?
Oh, I'd like to see that thing brought up back and shot in the back of the head. That should not be in Windows. That makes no sense.
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't know. The other thing I got
It's
infatuated
that
with, what is this thing called? Simple Note? I think it's,
Yeah.
I sent this to Paul earlier. So this is not new or revolutionary or groundbreaking or anything else that, might be exciting. There's an app called Simple Note that is available for iOS, Android, Windows, web, and Linux. And it syncs notes right across. It's kind of like a OneNote, but much more simpler and potentially more streamlined. And it supports, crucially, Markdown. And I'm going to start playing around with this.
So for people who don't understand what that means, because I wrote about what I use Markdown last week, I think it was, and I use it for writing, and I use it because I needed it for the book. Like Brad, you go through LeanPub, and they're publishing with Markdown. It's a markup language like HTML, XML, that kind of thing, and it basically describes. You can use codes in the text to describe what the text should look like. It's a little bit like using WordPerfect 5.1 must have been like back in 1990 on DOS. Like you had to type little codes to say, I want this thing italicized. And I think in that application back in the DOS days, you could trigger a toggle where you could kind of see a version of what it might look like formatted, but you were essentially using it in text mode, of course. There are benefits to this. One is it's super simple. These things tend to be super simple. If they're done correctly, they'll use simple keyboard commands like Control-I to italicize something. They're plain text, and so they will survive any tech Armageddon you can think of. If Microsoft tries to pull back all of its proprietary document formats or whatever, it won't matter because this thing's plain text. Markdown could disappear from the earth, and there will still be applications that can read this stuff for free. It's just, it's portable. And it's kind of in keeping with this thing I see now in computing, which I like a lot, which is a move to kind of minimalism. And it started on the Mac, and you see it on iOS as iOS devices become more productivity focused. And now we're starting to see it on Windows as well. And so I use a Markdown editor for writing, as do you. And I think we can both agree that it has the same minimalist vibe as does the apps we're using for writing. But
the
for no
only thing I don't like about it, and I don't know if this is a deal breaker yet, is that you can't save a file. You can export all your notes and import all your notes, but you can't write something and then save it
as a file. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in other words, right. So one thing I do a lot, and I do this across all kinds of different things, is I'm set my ways like everyone else, but I reevaluate things and I do different things. I was telling Brad this morning, I started using OneNote when it was still in beta, when they first announced it, which was either 2001, 2002. It was tied to the new tablet PCs that were coming out at the time. I pretty much used it straight through. I did a major diversion where I went to Evernote for a while, and Evernote is an example of kind of a new style, web-based, simpler solution. This looks like an even simpler version of Evernote to me. Now, I used it for everything for a little while, and so I would create a note that would be an article, copy and paste it to the web to get it out there. But you couldn't export it. Well, maybe you can, but I didn't. You didn't save it. You couldn't say, today I save Markdown files for every article I write. They're separate files, and I archive them however I do that. But if you were hoping, some people could work this way. I don't know why you want to save a file, but for me, would I go to this and write articles in this and then? To me, it's just a little too far from my normal workflow for me to do that, and that was one of the things I didn't like about using Evernote for writing, because it was the same kind of thing. Is that what you mean? For articles?
Yeah. I think my work around per se, 99.9% of the time is I write something and then I'm done, and then I put it into WordPress. And so I don't need that. It's in the rare
you don't actually
occasion.
Save the original. Yeah.
No.
That's what Mary Jo does as well. And I don't know. I think I have my own little weird, not weird for the tech industry, but curious form of obsessive compulsive disorder where every file has to be in its place. Like that. I still do. I have this thing. It's it's a broken part of my brain. The notion of writing a 5 or 100 or 1,000 word article, posting it to the web, and then throwing that thing away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, my OneDrive folder is way more organized than the rest of my life. I will say that.
Yeah. Oh no, so is mine, and that's where all that stuff is. Actually, that's where it gets archived.
So, yeah. There's something else I can't even remember at this point.
I will. Oh, one thing real quick to this. This isn't necessarily why I do this, although this has proven to be kind of a nice thing for me. Is I've been doing this for 20 years ish.
Yeah.
So when I pulled, I can go. I have my archives. They're also in the NAS in the house here, but I can, like you were doing the Surface stuff, and I went back and looked at some of the stuff I wrote about Surface when they first announced it. I still have all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the web, but unfortunately, because I was writing for a different site before, and that site has now changed hands at least twice and is now at a different URL, it's really hard for me to search the web to find my stuff. I can, but it has to, go from the site it was at, the URL gets rejiggered, it goes to the thing, and then all the images are gone. Like, it's not the full thing anymore because those people are idiots and they've completely screwed up my legacy. But anyway.
No, not bitter.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Great stewardship of that. Anyway, in my case, it's helped to have the originals with everything, the photos, the pictures, whatever. That's all.
That's all. Maybe they could create a feedback hub for you to file that in.
Yeah, it'd be good. Just put it in one thing and not in others, and make it a different color. That'd be good. Yeah, just do that.
You got anything else for today, Mr. Thurrat?
No, not for today specifically. I have more device stuff to do. I've been working on that. Like I said, I'm doing this battery. I have 3 devices that are kind of in motion as far as a review, so I don't know which one's going to happen first, but maybe this HP Folio, which is pretty cool. But I don't know. Probably not today because this thing, I think it's going to run until tomorrow. The battery life is actually really good. I think it is. Anyway, I guess we'll see. How about you?
Well, thanks for asking, buddy.
Yeah.
I think the only thing is, it's funny, now that I'm not writing a book, I have all this free time to do other writing. There's going to be a post up this afternoon on Thurrott Premium. Somebody asked, or a couple of people asked actually, how the tools used to write a book, like how it actually... And so I thought it was going to be like 500 words, and I think it turned into like 1,500. But
be sure to just point out in this, because we use Google Docs to do the edits and so forth, and I'm sure you mentioned that. But these tools work, but my God, there's no way that I could find in Google Docs to make suggestions, but only see the finished thing as I saw it, And it created this kind of awfulness of crossouts and blocks of green, and it was really hard to read. And so, like on the second pass, I would occasionally find these little problems that had cropped in because it was just impossible to see it in its original form. And they're easy enough to fix at that point. But, using Microsoft Word to do that is actually a far more elegant process. And it's one of those things, I don't know how many people need this per se, but it's one of those things Google still hasn't gotten right.
Yep. And so that'll be up and this afternoon.
Cool. Good.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for today, folks. Everybody have a good Tuesday, and we'll catch you back here tomorrow on tomorrow's Wednesday.